It seems that every single time we talk about Sony's PlayStation 5, there's a negative connotation attached to it, and it would seem that there's also inner turmoil at Sony's PlayStation studios. Let's get into this article where it describes how Sony might be losing their identity, and most of all, their heart. Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by and checking out the video. Remember to hit that subscribe button and that like button. The support is greatly appreciated. Alright, so let's get straight into this article by Jason Schreier, where he reports about inner turmoil at Sony Studios. Not to mention a very different route that Sony is taking with their first party teams, where they're being forced to make big budget games instead of anything they want, which seems to be hindering the creative freedom that a lot of those Sony developers loved when they first joined the company, or the freedom that they've had the last 10 years when it comes to game development. Yet it would also seem that this freedom has vanished since the new regime has taken over at Sony's PlayStation. They've become enamored with big blockbuster games, which the article mentions right here. Sony's obsession with big blockbusters stirring unrest within PlayStation Empire. A small team had big ambitions for The Last of Us remake, but Sony handed the work to their star studio, Naughty Dog. So right off the bat, I have to say that this is being reported by Jason Schreier, who, if you don't know, is a very, very reputable gaming journalist. And you can say what you want about the guy, but he's one of the few gaming journalists who takes a lot of pride in his work. And he's almost been right about everything that he's reported about. If people remember, he was the first one to say there was a lot of bad things happening over at CD Projekt Red with crunch and a terrible work environment, where people were pressured to push Cyberpunk 2077 out the door. And a lot of people who don't know what they're talking about or have any code experience anywhere bash this man for reporting something like this and continue to harass him. But once Cyberpunk 2077 came out and the game was nowhere near being ready for release, and you can tell that CD Projekt Red had a lot of leadership problems, people seem to forget that Jason Schreier was the first to report these things. So yeah, he's a really good writer and gets things right, which brings us back to Sony and their obsession with big blockbuster games. We all know that Sony has the best first-party output, there's no denying that. Yet it wasn't always like that. Sony really concentrated on indie games and giving developers the freedom to make what they wanted at the beginning of the PS4 generation. And truthfully, they did this towards the second half of the PS3 generation. It was a strong reason why developers and publishers loved working with them. But now, that doesn't seem to be the case anymore, as the article points out here, where a San Diego-based first-party developer within Sony who helped make games for other internal studios wanted to branch out and make their own games was turned down and almost disrespected from Sony. Here's what's said. Deflated, the small group's leadership has largely disbanded. According to interviews with 8 people familiar with the operation, many including Mombaro have left the company entirely. Mombaro declined to comment and others asked not to be named discussing private information. A representative for Sony declined to comment or provide interviews. The team's failure highlights the complex hierarchy of video game development and in particular Sony's conservative approach to making games for the PlayStation 5. The Japanese conglomerate owns about a dozen studios across the world as part of its PlayStation Studios label, but in recent years it has prioritized games made by its most successful developers. Studios such as Santa Monica, California-based Naughty Dog, and Amsterdam-based Guerrilla Games spend tens of millions of dollars to make games with the expectation that the investments will pay off exponentially. And they usually do. Hits including 2018's God of War and 2020's The Last of Us 2 are exclusive to PlayStation consoles, helping Sony sell some 114 million of the PS4. Rival Microsoft Corp has taken the opposite approach, relying on a wide array of studios to feed its Netflix-like subscription service, Xbox Game Pass, which allows users to pay a monthly fee for unlimited access to a variety of games. So there's a lot to unpack right here, but first off, I want to say that I love, and I mean love, some of the exclusive games Sony has brought out. I love the big games like God of War, Uncharted 4, or even The Last of Us 2 and Ghost of Tsushima. I know the amount of detail in those games and how much they cost to make, and I appreciate those massive games and I would love for more of them to come out. But I don't like those games if they hinder the creative freedom of developers who actually make the games I enjoy. Don't get me wrong, they're vital for the success of a platform, but they're not the only thing that matters when it comes to a publisher and platform. For me, I love playing smaller games and big games. I mean, you can check out my Xbox achievements. I play big, small, AAA or AA games. It doesn't matter. I just love gaming. So when I see that Sony really pushes the smaller studios down to just being support developers to the big studios making big games, it makes me feel that there's no room to grow in the company unless you play ball with those big AAA games. But most of all, it's a huge departure from what we know about Sony and how they carried themselves for so many years, where they truly gave gamers so many options on their platform. Not just big AAA games, but awesome indie games that can bring just as much joy to gamers as those big AAA games can, which is something that the article mentions right here. Sony's focus on exclusive blockbusters has come at the expense of niche teams and studios within the PlayStation organization, leading to high turnover and less choice for players. Last week, Sony recognized a development office in Japan, resulting in mass departures of people who worked on less well-known but acclaimed games such as Gravity Rush and Everybody's Golf. The company has informed developers that it no longer wants to produce smaller games that are only successful in Japan, Bloomberg has reported. Now, this is where things have really shown that Sony has lost their identity, because they were supposedly the place to go if you wanted to develop the game you want to make. They gave developers the freedom to make what they wanted, which is always a good thing. Don't get me wrong, some guidance or help from publishers can go a long way, but again, it's all about the developers and the creative teams. Yet now, even the first-party teams within Sony are being turned down for making games they want to make. In fact, a pretty big studio in Sony, Bend, the creators of Days Gone, were shut down for making the game they wanted, like the article mentions right here. This fixation on teams that churn out hits is creating unrest across Sony's portfolio of game studios. Oregon-based Sony Bend, best known for the 2019 open-world action game Days Gone, tried unsuccessfully to pitch a sequel that year, according to people familiar with the proposal. Although the first game had been profitable, its development had been lengthy and critical reception was mixed, so a Days Gone 2 wasn't seen as a viable option. Instead, one team at the studio was assigned to help Naughty Dog with a multiplayer game, while a second group was assigned to work on a new Uncharted game with supervision from Naughty Dog. Some staff, including top leads, were unhappy with this arrangement and left. Bend's developers feared they might be absorbed into Naughty Dog, and the studio's leadership asked to be taken off the Uncharted project. They got their wish last month and are now working on a new game of their own that will be a part of the brand new franchise. Now, I want to say this from the get-go, Days Gone wasn't a good game for me, personally. I played 30 hours of it and just couldn't go along with it anymore. But I know a lot of people that loved the game, yet for me, even though I didn't like the game, I saw a lot of potential in it. I could see the studio expanding and maybe bringing out an amazing experience with their sequel, much like Naughty Dog did with Uncharted. They brought out a decent game that was mixed with reception, but the second game that came out was one of the best of the generation. What Sony is losing sight of is that they have talented people in their studios, but talented people take time to perfect their craft, much like Sony Santa Monica, Naughty Dog, and of course Guerrilla Games had done. They made some decent games that had potential, and once they were given the time and care to make their next game, they knocked it out of the park. That's something I feel Days Gone from Sony Bend could have done. Yet instead, Sony uncharacteristically broke the team up and made them work on franchises like Uncharted. It's a weird thing to see because it looks like Sony is adverse to taking risks. Risks that really help shape the PS4 generation. Because we have to admit, making Horizon Zero Dawn, Ghost of Tsushima, and all those other big first-party games was a huge risk that paid off. Yet that type of leadership seems to be gone from Sony, and I think we have to think back a few years ago when Sean Layden left PlayStation. I have a feeling that was the turning point when it came to Sony's PlayStation losing their identity and their heart. And I know a lot of people will attack me for saying that, but it's just how I feel, which is sad because I love the competition between Xbox and Sony, and I want both companies to be the best they can be so we as gamers can benefit from both of them. But from the looks of it, the higher-ups at Sony won't allow this kind of risk. And it also looks like talented people might be leaving the company as time goes on, especially if they can't make the games they want or operate the way they want, much like the article mentions here at the end. To Sony, the move made sense. Naughty Dog is one of the key studios for Sony's ability to sell PlayStations, said Bloomberg intelligence analyst Matthew. Sony's competitive advantage has always been exclusive content over Microsoft and more new games as well as remakes of classic titles from such a storied team can help sustain demand for PS5. But those who wanted independence were disappointed. By the end of 2020, most of the T1X team's top staff had left, including Mumbar and the game's director David Hall. Today, the T1X project remains in development at Naughty Dog with assistance from Sony's visual arts support group. The future of the remainder of Mumbar's team, which has come to be jokingly referred to as Naughty Dog South, remains unclear. And there you have it. Not only is Sony afraid to take risks with their internal developers, it shows that they might be adverse to making games with second-party developers. Everything about this article makes me a little worried for the brand and of course the first-party developers, because this is a crazy thing to see when it comes to PlayStation, especially when they made last generation so memorable, with some of the best gaming experiences I've ever had. Yet now they don't even trust their first-party developers unless they make huge games that sell millions upon millions of copies. Long gone are the days of creating talent and guiding them to something better, letting them make mistakes or make smaller games, something that Microsoft and Xbox seem to be doing with their first-party studios. They're not only allowing them to make the games they want, they're actually encouraging them to make those games. It's a huge departure between the two companies, and I honestly think this is going to hurt Sony in the long run. Let's hope they fix this, and let's also hope the developers in those studios get to make the games they truly want to make. But enough of what I think about this. Tell me what you think of all of this. Are you surprised to see the inner turmoil in Sony? Will more developers leave Sony PlayStation for better jobs? Will Sony bring out less and less games since they only want to make huge AAA games? What will happen to the studios that don't sell well? Will we get even less variety when it comes to Sony games? Go down below and let me know. And I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please hit that subscribe button and that like button. The support helps out the channel more than you know. And give me a follow on Twitter at Zalker87. I'm always on there talking games and sharing my latest videos. Plus, I love interacting with everyone there, so get on Twitter and let's talk about gaming. Also, follow me on Xbox Live. My gamertag is Zalker87, just like my channel name. See what games I'm playing, and let's compete in achievements for the month. Right now, I'm playing a lot of Outriders. That game is just so fun to play. I'm really looking forward to actually getting into the end game and playing with my buddies so we can go through it. But so far, we're kind of stuck on the campaign because we didn't play over the weekend because we were away from the house and we weren't home to play. But this week and next week, I'm going to jump into Outriders a lot. Plus, I want to get into the other classes out there for it because I'm only playing the Trickster, which I'm having a lot of fun with, but I'm also going to try out the Pyromancer and of course the Devastator. But let me know what you're playing down below. I want to know what games you're playing. Are you playing on something from Xbox? Are you playing Game Pass? Or are you on your PS5? Let me know, because that's what we're here for, to talk games. And that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and until next time, remember, enjoy your gaming. Later.